July is the month that decides whether your lawn survives the rest of summer. The heat keeps climbing, the soil dries out faster than it can recover, and a handful of everyday habits that seemed harmless in June start working against you. Homeowners who water at the wrong time, mow at the wrong height, or ignore a dull mower blade will watch their yard thin out and turn brown within a few weeks. None of this happens by accident. It happens because of routines that are easy to fix once you know what to look for. Over the next several minutes, we're going through the most common lawn mistakes people make in July, in the order that matters most, so you can protect your yard before the hottest stretch of summer arrives. Before we get into the first one, if this video ends up being useful, take a second to like it and share it with a neighbor who's fighting the same battle with their lawn. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this series. And if you want a complete, step-by-step plan for keeping your lawn healthy through every season, I put together an ebook that covers watering schedules, feeding, mowing, and fall recovery in detail. The link is in the description below. The biggest watering mistake homeowners make in July is watering at the wrong time of day. Watering in the evening or overnight leaves grass blades wet for 7 to 9 hours straight, and that long stretch of moisture in warm, humid air is exactly what fungal disease needs to spread. Brown patch, dollar spot, and red thread all take hold faster on a lawn that stays damp after dark, and in July heat, an infection can spread across a large section of yard within days. The fix is straightforward. Water early in the morning, generally somewhere between 5 and 9 o'clock, before the sun climbs high enough to burn off the moisture through evaporation. Watering in the middle of the day wastes a large share of every gallon before it even reaches the roots, since the heat pulls the water back out of the soil almost as fast as the sprinkler puts it down. Watering before or right around sunrise gives the grass enough time to absorb what it needs, and the morning sun dries the blades naturally once it comes up, which keeps disease risk low. If your irrigation system is still running on an evening or late night schedule, reset the timer this week. That single change will cut most of the disease pressure your lawn faces during the hottest months of the year. That first fix alone can save your lawn from a serious disease outbreak this summer, and there's a lot more ahead. If this video has been useful so far, tap the like button and share it with someone who could use it. Subscribing helps more than you'd think, since it's what lets us keep making guides like this one. And if you want the complete system for keeping your lawn healthy all year, not just in July, grab my ebook using the link in the description. Daily watering feels like the safest habit during a heat wave, but it usually works against your lawn. When water only ever reaches the top inch of soil, that is exactly how deep the roots will grow, and a root system that's shallow cannot survive an extended stretch of intense heat. Watering deeply once or twice a week, instead of a little bit every day, pushes roots down 4 to 6 inches into the ground, where moisture stays available even after the surface has dried out. Most lawns need about 1 inch of water per week, counting any rainfall, and you can check how long that takes by setting a couple of shallow containers on the lawn while the sprinklers run and measuring what collects inside them afterward. If your soil is heavy or compacted and water starts running off into the street before it soaks in, split the watering into 2 shorter sessions with a 30-minute break in between, so the first round softens the ground and the second round actually gets absorbed. The one exception to this rule is a newly seeded lawn, which needs several short, light waterings a day just to keep the top layer of soil damp until the seed germinates. Once the grass is established, switch back to deep, infrequent watering for the rest of the season. Aerating and dethatching every year treats a symptom, not the actual problem underneath your lawn. Thatch, the spongy layer of dead grass and roots that builds up between the soil and the living turf, grows fastest on lawns that rely heavily on synthetic fertilizer, because that kind of fertilizer feeds the grass while doing very little for the organisms living in the soil underneath it. When the soil is full of healthy biology, earthworms, beneficial fungi, and bacteria break that thatch layer down and loosen compacted soil on their own, all season long. You can get a rough sense of your soil's condition in a few seconds. Push a long, thin garden tool straight down into the turf. Soil that lets the tool slide in with light pressure for several inches is in reasonably good shape. Soil that stops the tool after an inch or so, no matter how hard you push, has become compacted, and the microbial life inside it needs support to recover. Spreading a thin layer of good quality compost over the lawn twice a year, once in spring and once in fall, feeds that underground ecosystem and gradually restores the soil's structure without renting equipment or tearing up the yard. Mowing height changes everything about how a lawn handles summer heat, and the right height depends on which type of grass you have. The general rule for any lawn, regardless of type, is to never cut off more than 1/3 of the blade length in a single mow. Let the grass grow too tall and then scalp it back down, and the plant goes into shock, loses color, and slows its root growth for weeks afterward. Cool season grasses, including fescue, bluegrass, and ryegrass, handle summer heat far better when you raise the mowing height, sometimes up to 3.5 or 4 inches. Taller blades shade the soil, hold on to moisture longer, and keep the roots cooler through the hottest part of the day. Warm season grasses work the opposite way. Varieties like Bermuda, Zoysia, and St. Augustine actually thrive in high heat and do not need that extra height for protection. Bermuda in particular can be mowed as low as 1 inch to 1.5 inches, and cutting it that short on a regular schedule helps crowd out weeds, since most weed species cannot survive being cut down again and again before they get the chance to flower and spread seed. Knowing which category your lawn falls into and adjusting your mower deck to match makes a real difference in how well it holds up through the hottest weeks of summer. A dull mower blade is one of the most overlooked causes of a rough, discolored lawn. Instead of slicing the grass cleanly, a dull blade tears it, and each torn tip turns brown or pale at the edge and loses moisture faster than a clean cut would. Those torn edges also give fungal spores an easier way into the plant, which raises the risk of disease during the exact months when your lawn is already under stress. Most mower blades need sharpening at least twice during the growing season, once in spring and once around the middle of summer, and sooner than that if the blade has struck a rock, a root, or a sprinkler head. You can check the condition of your own blade in under a minute. Look closely at the tips of a few grass blades right after mowing. A crisp, clean green edge means the blade is cutting properly. A frayed, brownish, or torn edge means it's time to pull the blade and sharpen it. Weeds rarely show up at random. They take hold wherever the lawn is already thin or weak, because bare or sparse soil is the only place their seeds can get enough light to germinate. A dense, healthy lawn shades the ground so thoroughly that most weed seeds never sprout in the first place, simply because they don't get the light and space they need. That's why weeds usually show up in the same trouble spots year after year, like strips near the driveway, patches under trees, or paths worn down by regular foot traffic. Building a thicker lawn through proper watering, mowing, and soil care solves the weed problem at its source far more effectively than spraying alone ever will. If you do need to treat an existing weed problem, timing matters just as much as the product you choose. Many herbicide labels warn against applying the product once temperatures climb above 85 degrees, since the heat causes the chemical to evaporate and drift, which can damage your grass right along with the weeds you're targeting. Wait for a cooler stretch, ideally an early morning when temperatures are still in the 70s, and you'll get better results on the weeds with far less risk to the lawn around them. Reaching for fertilizer during a heat wave usually backfires. When a lawn starts looking pale or stressed in the middle of summer, the instinct for a lot of homeowners is to feed it, but a heavy dose of nitrogen in peak heat forces the plant into a burst of rapid top growth right when its root system has the least energy available to support it. The result is often more thatch, more susceptibility to disease, and more attractive conditions for pests. It's better to hold off on any heavy feeding until temperatures start dropping in early fall, when the grass can put that nitrogen towards steady, sustainable growth instead of a stressed sprint. If your lawn genuinely needs a boost during the hottest weeks, a light application of a slow-release fertilizer or a thin layer of compost gives it a gentler nudge without the same risk. Feeding the soil instead of forcing the grass tends to produce a stronger lawn once cooler weather arrives. Not every summer lawn problem comes from watering or mowing. The same paths you walk every day, from the back door to the grill, or the route your dog runs along the fence line, take a beating over the course of a summer. That repeated foot traffic compacts the soil directly underneath, and compacted soil starves the grass roots of oxygen and water, so those exact strips thin out and become the first place weeds move in. If you have a heavily used path like that, laying down a few stepping stones or a small mulched walkway takes the pressure off the grass and lets it recover on its own. Underground pests cause a different kind of damage that's easy to mistake for drought stress. Grubs, chinchbugs, and armyworms do the most damage in the middle and later part of summer, and a section of lawn that looks scorched or dying might actually be under attack from insects rather than heat. A simple way to check is to grab a handful of the damaged grass and pull upward. Healthy turf holds firm because the roots anchor it in place. Turf with grub damage separates from the soil almost instantly, since the roots underneath have already been eaten away. If you find more than 4 or 5 grubs within a single square foot section, the area is worth treating. Beneficial nematodes offer a low toxicity option, since these microscopic organisms hunt down grubs in the soil without harming pets, people, or the beneficial insects nearby. Bagging every grass clipping and hauling it to the curb throws away one of the easiest, cheapest ways to feed your lawn. Grass clippings are made up mostly of water, along with a meaningful amount of nitrogen, and when a mulching mower chops them finely enough to fall between the standing blades, they break down within about a week and feed the lawn directly, which can reduce how much fertilizer you need to apply over the season. There's a common myth that leaving clippings on the lawn causes thatch buildup, but that isn't accurate. Thatch forms from old roots and stems, not from leaf blades, so mulching clippings back into the lawn doesn't contribute to the problem. The same idea applies later in the year with fallen leaves. Running a mulching mower over them and leaving the shredded pieces on the lawn feeds the soil through the winter instead of sending that material to the curb. Every mistake we covered today comes back to the same idea. A lawn that gets watered at the right time, mowed at the right height, fed without overdoing it, and supported by healthy soil will handle July heat far better than one that's fighting all of these problems at once. Small adjustments now, before the hottest stretch of summer hits, can be the difference between a lawn that bounces back and one that needs to be reseeded in the fall. If you found this video helpful, tap the like button and share it with a neighbor or family member dealing with the same lawn struggles this summer. Subscribe to the channel so you catch every new lawn care video as soon as it's out. And if you want a complete, easy-to-follow plan for keeping your lawn healthy in every season, not just July, check out my ebook using the link in the description below. It covers everything we talked about today and a lot more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.